Good morning. We're here again at City College Horticulture Department, and I'm here today probably hope to give you a few gems of wisdom when it comes to drought. This happens to be June, the first part of June 2021, and we're into a drought. And at my old age, I've lived through a few big droughts in San Francisco Bay Area, and they're different all over the world, but my knowledge is right here in San Francisco. And the first one that I remember was 1970s, right in there, and we were cut to 25 gallons per person per day, and that's not a lot of water when a toilet used to take 7 gallons or 9 gallons. Now they got them down to 1.5 and 2 gallons. So we're saving water there, and most people have different methods of saving water. And today what I'd really like to talk to you about is watering. And you have to know something about plants, because you have to know what their requirements are. But one thing I want you to remember, and this is number one gem of wisdom, whenever you're planting, you need more water. So maybe during a height of a drought, you don't want to plant. This is like farmers. They are going to be cut so much water, maybe this year, that they're going to let certain crops go. They're not going to plant them because they're going to require more water. So when it comes to your little home garden, maybe you have, so many 100 square feet. Well, cut it in half. And you could cut your water in half that goes in the garden. So you do that, okay? Once you know what the plants need and how to water them, you should have something to test the moisture content. You can get a probe that goes down, an electronic thing, and it'll tell you moisture content. You might look at your, have a soil probe that goes down and pulls out a sample. You can maybe just dig with your little trowel and see how far the water goes down. What you want not to happen is runoff. You don't want to waste water, just the amount of water that the plants will need. You don't want to just keep pouring water on, because the plants will take it and it's wasted, okay? So one of the methods the easiest method now, on your hose bib, when you turn the water on, they have these little timers, and it's a spring. You could turn it for so many minutes. And if you have a sprinkler or whatever you're using, or a drip system even, if you're going to do it manually, this is a pretty good way, okay? The next one, they have one that fits on a hose bib that's battery operated. And then they also have the one we use on sprinkler systems and everything. It's got a solenoid, and you have to have a clock and everything. But if you have a big garden, this might be a way to go, and have everything hooked up to a clock. So if they would tell you you're going to cut 10% of your water use, you could do that easily by cutting so many minutes off, or skip a day or anything. You can manipulate it real easily, okay? But the one thing you want to remember when you do this, that what I have found, especially the battery ones, during the winter, disconnect them, put it in the garage. In the past, I had left them out all year, and the cold weather gets to them, and or we even have a little bit of a frost, it cracks them, they're plastic, and they're gone. And it costs about 75 to 100 bucks. So why throw money away? If you buy one and take good care of it, it should last for quite a few years, okay? So monitoring how much water you put on is pretty simple by looking. you should know how many gallons a minute are coming out of your hose. If you're watering by hand, you could put a gallon, time it, or a 5-gallon bucket. How long does it take you to fill the 5-gallon bucket? So many gallons an hour, a minute, or an hour. Okay, you figure it all out, and that way you know how much you're saving. Okay, we learned a lot of this during that first round. You know, I've been in business since 1953, and we never had any of this until 70. So from 71, a lot of the information I'm giving you, I got from UC Extension. They had a lot of seminars and things on account of the drought. Okay, so we learned all of those things, and over the years, then they came out with oozing pipe, and that's not a bad way to go. The cheapest way to go, and you can weave that all through your vegetable garden, but still put a timer on it, because when you buy it, it'll tell how much water it'll put out per minute or per hour, so you can figure all that out, and then leave it run. And they're like a soaker hose is what it is. Well, once they had that, then they came into drip irrigation, and this is an outgrowth of that, and it's more precise. They know, they could tell you how many gallons a minute come out of each emitter, and you got a line, you count all your emitters. If they're at 1 gallon an hour, you could add it up, you know how much water you put on. Then you have that hooked to your clock, and you could put it on every day, you could put it on twice a day, whatever. Okay? So, number one thing you don't want to have is runoff, and you usually don't get much runoff with drip irrigation, but I have seen some. It's on slope, and they put it on, and what I'm saying, the valve gets stuck and the people are away, the water is running off the bottom of the garden. So, you know, so you can waste that way. So they do have to be monitored, and regular sprinkling system, if we can get into that, like when they water the lawns and stuff, a lot of times if it's going to be a warm day or something, you get up early when it's not sunny and syringe the leaves off. You don't want too much water on the leaves when the hot sun comes, so you kind of cook them. And the same thing at the end of the day, you would, as soon as the sun goes down, that would be the time to syringe the leaves off to cool the plants off also. But don't water during the evening or night, the dark, then it's better chance for fungus to get started. So these are all things you have to kind of get in your vocabulary and figure out when to do which thing and when and how, okay? Now I wanted to give you a couple of things, and this is what I learned in the big drought, where you put your water, okay? This is a tree trunk. This piece of paper is a tree trunk, and right there, you don't put the hose right here. You put it out as a drip line. Wherever, you know, the edge of the leaves, that's where you want to put your drip line all the way around. I had people putting a hose right here and just having it drip, not a lot of water coming out. And they thought they were doing the greatest thing, and I tried to tell them no. They kept doing it, and the drought was over. We got back into taking care of our garden, and these are jobs that I maintained. So after about 8 years, the tree died. I dug all around, and right around the trunk it had crown rot. So when you put the water right there, you created it. So if you would have put the water where it belonged, you wouldn't have had that. Also, if you're ever putting a sprinkling system in, and you have an established garden, or maybe a new garden, and it's all on, but you have a tree in the middle, or a couple, you don't put the water hitting onto the tree trunk. That's bad too. You're going to get all kind of fungus on that tree trunk, and you will get crown rot also. So what you would do there, whatever the drip line is, make your sprinklers there pointing out. And then all the other sprinklers just to those sprinklers. And this area here would get a little bit of water. A good example is if you've ever been under a redwood tree, pine trees and everything, a lot of times if you have a nice big canopy and it starts raining, you run under the tree and there's no water coming down. You know, most of the water will drip out. After a lot of rain, some will come down, but it's not a lot. Most of it go boom, 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 and drops off the edges of the canopy, okay? And so this is a big no-no. And a lot of times it's hard to convince people because you're talking of some abstract. They can't see it. You know, you put the water here, they live there for 4 or 5 more years, they didn't do any damage. You know, but trees a lot of times don't react. When you see trees dying of drought or infestations and stuff, the beetles just didn't get in last week. Any of these conditions that kill the tree been coming a long, long time. Trees are a tough being. They want to survive, and they have all kind of mechanisms that keep them alive. But when too many things happen and more beetles come and then the fungus comes and everything, one work on the other and the tree just can't make it. So that's what happened. So you don't want to contribute. Let's put it that way. You know, when the beetles came, there's nothing you could have done about that, you know. But you could do proper watering, proper feeding, and take care of your trees and plants. And like I said before, you know, don't plant too much if you're into a drought. Otherwise, you may have to let part of them die anyway when they cut the water out. Another few points, we used to get this from relatives that live in the country. They never waste water. And whenever they would wash their vegetables, they used to have a trough outside and the water would just drop out on the ground. They put a bucket under there and they'd save that, and then they could go water some of their plants with that. So what we did during one of the droughts, we used to take wash water out of the, you know, from your clothes washer and put it into a tub before it went down the drain and plug it, and then go in there with a bucket, and then we used to flush the toilet with that water. There are many ways, and probably a good example would go to somebody like Urban Farmer out there in the Sunset, and they'll tell you all about wastewater and how to conserve. Okay, we'll see you later. Good luck.